Has the livestock changed? Yes, it has, just a little bit, so let's get stuck into it. I now only have one species of turtle in this aquarium. So I don't have Bruiser, the eastern long-necked turtle, anymore as an inhabitant of this tank, but not for the reasons that you might think. Eastern long-necked turtles, are also known as snake-necked turtles, can be a little bit risky when it comes to keeping with fish. And they've got that long neck to pounce on unsuspecting fish, and they do have a carnivorous diet. They don't take any vegetarian matter in their diet at all. She, as far as I could tell, didn't actually predate any of the fish. She was always ready and willing up at this end of the tank for her handouts of squid and prawn and kangaroo meat. Bruiser herself was a very mature adult eastern long-necked turtle. Although she was very happy, very settled in this aquarium and eating really well, I wasn't intending on getting any other eastern long-necked turtles, and because she was a mature breeding size female, I just didn't feel right about having her by herself as a species in this tank. So what I decided to do was to rehome her through another reptile keeper, and on license actually acquire some more Mcari short-necked turtles to fill out my group of short-necked turtles to 5. 3 female and 2 males. The males you can tell because they get a much longer tail when they become sexually mature than the females. And also in the case of breeding season like it is at the moment, the males like to spend a lot of time courting the females and climbing on back and going for rides all the way around the tank. I must admit, every evening and around about 5 o'clock when I'm feeding the dogs, the turtles are down this end, up and down the tank, begging for their handouts of kangaroo meat. One thing that's really important if you are going to keep turtles outside though, is that you don't just feed, or turtles at all, is that you don't just feed meat. They need to have a complete diet that contains calcium and vitamins and whatnot. So that's the reason why I include squid and prawns into their diet, and also include a pellet of some sort, which has all the vitamins and the minerals and the calcium added to it. That's really important. In regards to fish, I have 4 different species of schooling fish. I have 2 species of gudgeon and 2 species of oddball fish, which funnily enough have become the favourites of my tank. So I started out with the crimson spot rainbow fish, Melanotaenia dublei, and also the Pacific blue eye, which is Pseudomugil signifer. So they were the 2 species I wanted to concentrate on and get a good school of, and they're the ones that you can see mostly behind me at the moment. They've been very successful. They were courting throughout the actual springtime, and I've seen fry actually in the tank. But to that, I've actually added 2 other species of local schooling type of fish. One is another rainbow fish. It's a Radonocentris ornatus, or the ornate rainbow fish. It's a much smaller rainbow fish. It is about 3, 4, 5 centimeters long, gets some black spots on the silver body with a bright neon blue bar across the back. So it's a subtle looking fish, but that neon stripe is quite attractive. I haven't had a lot of success in the past keeping ornate rainbow fish with crimson spot rainbow fish when I'm keeping them inside aquariums. But in this large style aquarium, which is a bit more natural and is a bit more spacious, I find mixing the 2 together is actually okay. In the past, when I've tried to keep Australian smelt, I found them to be very difficult, very sensitive, especially sensitive to transport when you collect them in the river and you're bringing them home. But I've actually found, even despite we've had a fairly warm summer here in Australia, that the smelt that I've had in this aquarium have actually done really, really well. The gudgeons I've got are 2 species. One's the empire gudgeon and one's a striped gudgeon. Both are fairly elusive fish. They're not out and about like the rainbow fish. They tend to hover around the rockworks and the plants and come out at the feeding time. The empire gudgeons themselves are actually really attractive fish. The males, particularly when it becomes breeding season, get on a real brilliant red, black and white courting coloration, and the males develop this kind of a spongy bulbous hump on their head as they grow and becomes actually quite attractive. So I do intend to beef out the population of the empire gudgeon. I've got 2 species of invertebrate living in my tank, one which is very, very boring and one which I find to be incredibly interesting. The boring one, it's not a ramshorn, it's a ram's horn. I threw in there for a bit of algae control, very well thinking that they get snapped up by the turtles, but as yet they don't seem to be, and they are growing and growing and growing as ram's horn snails do. The other invertebrate, which luckily enough likes to eat ram's horn snails, is the macrobrachium, or long-armed shrimp that have got those amazing long pincers. And they're quite a large shrimp. They actually grow to be probably about 10 centimetre body length, plus the really, really long arms. And although at first, when I put them in, I thought, I wonder if this is dangerous because they might go and predate on some of the sleeping fish. At least, well, it's possible that they are, but at least from what I've seen, my fish numbers have stayed the same. I see the shrimp come out and feed amongst the fish and the turtles when there's pellets or meat in the water. They're actually really, really quite interesting shrimp, and I've actually found tiny, tiny little baby shrimplets actually in the tank, particularly up along the actual driftwood up high where the fish don't seem to see them, so they're breeding in the tank. I do have a niggling idea in the back of my mind, just because I need something else to build, that maybe I could increase the diversity of reptiles in this display. Let me know what you think. So what I'm thinking is I could build a screen-topped enclosure all the way around, complete with some form of sliding glass doors on the front, install some branches up high, a lot more driftwood. How cool would it be to see an eastern water dragon or a pair of eastern water dragons swimming around the actual water surface? Or would they eat the rainbow fish? How cool would it be to see a coastal carpet python curled up, basking in the sunlight amongst the branches of some driftwood or the tree? Or would it just squash the plants? And how cool would it be to see a lovely little colony of eastern water skinks basking on the water's edge and frolicking around amongst the lomandra plants for bugs and small critters? That's a much more sensible choice, I think. But do you think I should change the aesthetic of this aquarium? Do you think I should make it into a paludarium? Do you think I should increase the reptile biodiversity in this display, or leave it just as it is? So the two fish that I've actually grown really, really fond of in the aquarium are freshwater herring and freshwater mullet, or pink eye mullet as they're called here in Australia. They're just a silver fish, but a bit like other fish that are in the hobby, such as a diamond tetra, their silver is so iridescent that it actually stands out as a colour in itself as it swims amongst the rainbow fish. It's a strictly carnivorous fish. I find that if I grate up the squid or I put in the kangaroo meat, they'll eat that quite readily, but they have to be trained onto pellet and take a bit more time to do so compared to the rainbow fish. I know a lot of people actually go out and actually jig or fly fish for herring, and they actually eat them. From what I understand, the trouble with that is they're very sensitive fish, a bit like Australian smelt. And if they get damage to their mouth from a hook, even if the barb's being squashed, that damage can actually cause them to decline in health in the aquarium and to actually die fairly quickly after being introduced. So, although I will get back out there at night time and continue to try and fish for herring, it's going to be a challenge to beef out their numbers. I had a great deal of trouble trying to collect freshwater mullet. Initially, they were my choice to use for algae control, and remember the whole Shrek swamp thing? Well, that's the reason why I wanted to collect them. They don't take hooks and baits in the traditional way that saltwater mullet would, and they are very elusive when it comes to spotlighting at night time. They tend to dart away very quickly or jump across the surface of the water like crazy mullet do. So they were very, very hard to collect, and I managed to collect them just as tiny, tiny little fingerlings, and there they grew to the size. At the moment, the remaining mullet's probably about a good 6 or 7 inches long. Unfortunately, one morning I came out and I found the other freshwater mullet lying dead on the gravel outside. And although I knew mullet do jump, you might have noticed that the actual top of this aquarium, the water surface is down by about 6 inches or 150 mil, and that's to keep the turtles in the tank. But I hoped that would also keep any jumping fish in the tank. But unfortunately, with the case of the freshwater mullet, that wasn't to be the case. The mullet were fantastic as a pair. I think they'd be even better as a group. They would spend a lot of time swimming together, frolicking amongst the stones and the driftwood and grazing algae off the surfaces. And although they're just a plain silvery grey kind of a fish, I actually really, really like them. I do fully intend to go out and try and collect some more freshwater mullet this autumn, and hope that I can actually round out the population in the tank. And hopefully if there's a larger school of them, they might be a little bit less inclined to go aerial. It gets very interesting, doesn't it, when we start thinking about aquariums as being more than just glass boxes to contain our fish. All of a sudden we've got life springing out the top in the form of plants or reptiles in this case. What do you think? Do you think I should increase the diversity of reptiles in this aquarium? Also, if you're interested to find out more about plywood aquarium construction, I've got a bit of a deep dive video all about that there it is up there. Go click on that and you can learn all about it. Thanks, guys.